Hi, welcome back to what I've been reading. Since I last updated, I've read about 9 really fantastic books. Some have already been returned to the library and then some have been lent to friends, but here's some of that stack and let's start talking about them. The first book is Everything I Never Told You by Celeste Ng. I gave this 4.25 stars. It is about a 15-year-old Chinese American girl named Lydia who is dead. You know that from the get-go. But what you don't know is, was this a murder? Was this an accident? Was it a suicide? Like, what led to this occurrence? And you also get to hear each family member and friends, or just character in general, experiencing this loss and how they each feel like their own weight of responsibility and grief, and how each person is spiraling in their own way, and everything that led to this occurrence that you really still don't know why it happened. So as you're reading it, you're led to believe, like, wait, could this person be the murderer? Could this person, did she commit suicide? Was this an accident? Like, the whole time you're not 100% sure, but each character's background story sort of makes you wonder. But with this being set in a small town in the 70s about a Chinese American family, it definitely deals with like racism and societal expectations and just all the different weights people carry every day as a human. And even if you personally don't relate to it, you can still relate to just like the human reaction and human emotion of it all. So I would consider this a pretty good read. Next I read You Are Here by David Nicholls. I don't have this on me because it was a library read, but I give this 4.5 stars. It is about 2 recently single individuals who are like mid-30s, named Marnie and Michael, and they are content in their solitude. They say no to every plan. They stay home. They enjoy their loneliness. But they have a mutual friend that convinces them to get out of the house and go on this hiking trip. So it's a bit of a romance story because the friend has the intention of setting them each up with someone else. But I just really love the way this was told, and you can feel both characters being so content in their loneliness and in their solitude that they're so annoyed at their friend for even making them go on this stupid hiking trip, but it ends up being like kind of a beautiful, magical experience of people growing together and going out of their shell and pushing past past experiences that have like caused them to retreat into this shell and breaking back out of it. I really loved it. You could like feel each character's little like nervous jitters going to meet like their crush, and like you could feel the letdown at certain moments, and like you could feel them getting excited. I could see the characters in my head. Like, it was just really beautifully told human experience, and I liked it. Next I read The Memory Police by Yoko Ogawa. It was a library read, so it's not included in this stack, but I did give it 5 stars. It is about a young novelist who lives on this weird dystopian unnamed island, and on this island there are the memory police, and they go around erasing items from this deserted island and from people's minds that inhabit it. So the second they erase the item, it no longer exists on the island and it no longer exists in people's minds. And there are a few individuals who have the ability to maintain their memories, and they have to hide this from the memory police, or the memory police will come take them away to God knows where. So there are definitely some parallels that can be drawn to current times of these awful memory police dragging people away. So it definitely wasn't a happy read, but it was strange and dystopian and hopeful in the sense that like you're hoping for the protection of these people and their memories, because that's all they have is their memories. Like, if they are being wiped of all that they hold in their mind, they have nothing. They don't know what things around them are, and then the things around them vanish, and the memories that pertain to these items vanish, and what else is there? But I enjoyed it. I thought it was a great read, especially if you're into something like strange and dystopian, and relatively short, relatively quick read to get you back into the swing of things. So yeah. Next I read Atmosphere by Taylor Jenkins Reid, and wow. I have heard people talk about book hangovers, and that has never been something I've experienced, but I finished this book and like could not bring myself to start another book for a good while after, and I was still just reeling after reading it, like thinking about the characters as if they were real life friends of mine that I needed to check up on, like real people that experienced this thing with me. I felt so emotionally into this book that it is a rare experience. I loved this book. Clearly I gave it 5 stars, but this book is set in the late 80s and it follows astronauts, and trust me, at first I was like, I know nothing about like aerodynamics or space or NASA. This isn't going to be for me. but I was wrong. This book is incredible. So it follows love in the sense of like family and relationships and want and desire for everything these characters have worked towards to even get into NASA, to be an astronaut, because obviously that's not an easy feat, and they've all had their own personal hardships and things they had to push through to get there, and all of that hard work they're willing to risk for the people they love. And God, was it life-changing. I almost don't even want to tell too much because there's a lot of it that you don't know you're getting into when you get into it, but God, was this book good. If you like Taylor Jenkins Reid even a little bit, you will love this book. You don't even have to like Taylor Jenkins Reid, you will love this book. Truly incredible, especially being in the 80s where, I mean, even now times are nowhere near perfect, but like women in NASA and like LGBTQ individuals in any workplace, and just like the struggles of human beings that aren't always accepted into places that they should be, especially all the hard work they've done to be accepted there as just a person. God, was this book good. Please read it. Next, I read The 7.5 Deaths of Evelyn Hardcastle by Stuart Turton. I read this for my book club, and I very unfortunately must say this was 2 stars. I did not love it, but the concept was good. So it is about an individual that wakes up every single day reliving the same day as a different person in a different body. They don't even know who their true self is because they're so like lost and confused and spun around in this strange world of waking up in a different body every day, living the same exact day. And at the end of every day, there's a murder of Evelyn Hardcastle. So they are trying to solve the mystery through the eyes of all these different individuals. And as I describe it, it truly sounds like a wonderful concept, which it was. But for me, it went on a little too long, and it would introduce characters a little too quickly and like throw them in there without a full introduction of who this was. So you're like mentally trying to keep track of all these names and plots and whose body is in whose right now and what day it is, what time it is, like who they're waking up as today. And maybe that's a me problem that I had a hard time following this, but it wasn't my favorite, although the concept is wonderful and maybe I need to give it another shot. I don't know. I said I was still reeling from Atmosphere. Nothing in comparison to the emotional roller coaster this book put me through. Oh my God. Sunburn by Chloe Michelle Howarth. Oh my God. So it follows a young girl in Ireland in like the late 80s, 90s, and her name is Lucy. And she's expected to fall in love with the farmer boy next door that she's grown up with, marry him, like, you know, do all the stereotypical like white picket fence, stay-at-home wife with her husband type things. But internally, she has the struggle of being in love with her female best friend, Susanna. And she doesn't want her family to know because she so badly wants the exception of her mother and of her friends in school, and to like just please everyone. And like maybe she all these internal monologues with herself where she's like, well, maybe I could just suck it up and like please them. Maybe this is nothing. God, do go on a journey with Lucy. I loved this book. I don't want to tell too much, but it is like the perfect WLW coming of age, perfectly set in the 80s, 90s. Wow. Even if you personally have never experienced anything like what the characters are going through in this, every single reaction and emotion is so raw and so human that you still relate, even if you personally don't relate. I finished this book and like truly felt like I had just walked through their shoes or was friends with them and had like firsthand watched it all happen because of how real and raw this book is, and it just like transports you there. Not only that, but it's just like it shows her yearning and her pining in like such a weird, raw, human way that's like the borderline like embarrassing, weird internal thoughts you have when you like someone. I love this book. Apparently she's coming out with a new book, I think in like 2026. I can't wait. Chloe Michelle Howarth. If I'm honest, it's hard to follow anything after reading Sunburn because I was like, what do I even do now? Like, where am I gonna find something half as good as that? But I actually did read a really fantastic book after. Blue Sisters by Coco Mellors. This follows 3 sisters, each so unique in their hardships and their personalities, but they all love each other so incredibly unconditionally in the way that only siblings can, and they are all coming apart in their own way after the death of their 4th sister. And they all kind of grapple with their own feeling of responsibility of like, I should have done this different, I should have done this different, or I should do this, or I could be that. They all struggle with their own forms of like self-destruction or addiction, or just the way they grieve after this awful, awful loss, and the way they come together and grow apart with each other and lovers and family members, and just trying to come over this huge loss. But I loved this. I've used this word before describing previous books, but it was just so raw and human, and I felt like I could see the wheels turning in each character's mind before they did something, because you got to know them and like how they would react. Even when they're doing something so awful that you don't approve of, you still kind of love them, and you're like, God, they're fucking up, but I love them anyway. This was a great book, and not only the way I just described feeling towards the characters, that's how each sister feels towards each other. Like, yes, they scream and fight and say the most vicious, terrible things to each other, and then 5 minutes later they're best friends who love each other because they're sisters and they'll always be there for each other. But it was really beautifully told, just about family and hardships and grief and addiction and all the ways we self-destruct day to day versus the ways we do the total opposite and help ourselves get better. But really fantastic book as well. This was 4.75 stars, mostly just because it wasn't like perfect favorite book in the world, but also there was nothing wrong with it, and it was a wonderful book. It just wasn't #1 favorite, 5 stars, live inside my heart favorite. So yeah. Okay, that's all for now. I'm about to start The Secret History because that feels like a good fall transition into like slightly spooky, eerie, cold weather. So let's cross our fingers that's good, and I hope you enjoyed.